Good afternoon. Many international students have expressed their disappointment with the lack of meaningful social connections with their Dutch peers. In fact, multiple reports have outlined the difficulties that foreign nationals face in bonding with local students. This has even been linked to the declining mental conditions of these students when compared to their Dutch and European peers. So, what exactly are the conditions that cause this divide between students? What are some exemplary experiences from student lives that outline this barrier? And what are some initiatives from the university that help students feel more at home? In this video, we'll be talking to international students as well as representatives of student and university efforts. Okay, this video turned out to be much more complicated than we anticipated. Who knew? So we split the video into two parts. The first one, we'll be talking to international students to get their experiences from when they first moved in all the way until the present moment. And in the second one, we'll be talking to representatives from the university as well as the student union to get to know about the efforts that they have in place to make this whole situation better for everyone. With that said, here's the international students. Earlier this month, You Today published a story about the difficulties the university is facing in helping the 34% of foreign national bachelor students who experience performance-inhibiting psychological stress on campus. This percentage exceeds the Dutch and European figures by a factor of 4. As discussed in these publications and similar reports from other universities, there are many, often compounding reasons which put a lot of strain on student health. One that is often mentioned at the UT by reports and students alike is the difficulty non-European international students face in assimilating with their Dutch and European fellows. This diagnosis correlates with the general student consensus, which we know about from the International Student Barometer, ISB. The ISB is an international student survey which measures the satisfaction of students worldwide with their studies away from home. The University of Twente scored well enough on most things, and especially great on a few others. However, it is the cultural and personal aspects that suffered the worst scores. That and the food. Get your food sorted, Kaskoppen. When you first came in, how did you feel about sort of moving into the Netherlands? Did you feel like you were already sort of integrating within the community, or was it like tough at first?
I think initially it was pretty easy just because everyone spoke English, so it was pretty easy to communicate with everyone. I mean, especially compared to with other countries that I've been to where the rate of English proficiency is pretty low. So at first it felt like it was going to be pretty easy, but I think as I got along, I started seeing a little bit more of a cultural divide.
So basically, I was kind of thrown into a mix of Dutch people. They already had their friendships and everything. Their life was getting along quite well already. And I was this person who was trying to explore new things. So let's say, for example, if I wanted to visit a new Dutch town or something like that, okay, let's go out. For them, it was pretty boring. They didn't want to do that. So yeah, initially it was pretty hard.
Myself personally put in quite some effort into trying to learn the language. So the experience was quite different for me because as soon as I would start speaking Dutch, there was suddenly a lot more acceptance, even if I couldn't understand much because they saw that I was trying to learn. So at the very start, it was a lot smoother than most of my international friends felt it to be.
Well, when I first got here, I experienced the same culture shock that most students would experience, but before that was a lot of excitement. A new environment, a new culture, meeting new people, trying to meet the locals here, as well as interact also with the international students. Yes, it was quite enriching for me, personally, because I'm very extroverted. I like to meet people, I like to do things with people, and I was also quite fortunate to be part of the buddy program, where I met my initial Dutch friends that would later become best friends, and that really helped me.
In terms of your friend circle and the people that you interact with more often, do you feel like you're more surrounded by international students or Dutch students? Do you feel like there has been some sort of coalescing of international students around each other, or has there actually been quite a bit of distribution?
I would say there's definitely a coalescing of international kids together. Just from the get-go, when we're in the kick-in stuff like that, it's all the international kids specifically for the nanotechnology thing. So it was kind of hard to integrate with the other Dutch kids. So from the get-go, you get this group of international students, and they kind of just run along together. So it makes it a little harder for the Dutch and the international kids to mix.
Of course, you do the most comfortable thing, which is to find international students, because they're all in the same boat. They're also new here, trying to explore everything, discovering everything. And they're also more open to learning, meeting different people from different cultures.
For most of the cases that I have heard about from other friends and from my own personal experience, some have still find it very difficult to have these interactions with the Dutch because they believe there is the Dutch and then the international student. And these cause some kind of psychological schism, division between these two groups, each judging each other without necessarily having good conversations. And I think where the most is lost is in communication.
Has there been like things on campus in terms of like associations or parts of the university that have helped you sort of enter back into that society?
So I joined NEST, which is the theatre association on campus. They do Dutch and English plays. And I also joined DIOC, which is the badminton association. And I've had mixed experiences with both. For one association, it was really easy to meet Dutch people, make friends, because they were interested in kind of integrating with the international community. That was part of the association. And for the other association, they were not quite sure what to do with international people, so they kind of thrust them into things that they already did, and some people are not comfortable, so it's kind of hard integrating.
No, no. I mean, the kick-in was probably the best example of that, but after that, there wasn't something that really tried to get you integrated.
Well, I would say every faculty always have the end of the year kind of get together barbecue thing to do, and this involves everybody. As long as you're part of the faculty here, you're entitled to participate. And this is supposed to be more socially oriented than academic, and it's a good opportunity to meet the Dutch.
What would you sort of hope that would happen on campus? What would be your recommendations, since you've done some part of the internationalization at least?
Well, what's happening right now, actually talking to people who are not from the Netherlands, that helps a lot, because quite some discussions happen within international groups and within Dutch groups, but barely any cross that boundary. And then you have one perspective and then you have another perspective, but there's never sharing perspectives. So I think what's happening right now is actually quite good in that sense.
The rules are not going to help. It has to be solved internally, I think.
I just think that people should realize that leaving your country to come to another place is an experience, one that you should try as much as possible to enjoy and cherish.
Welcome back to the studio. So it seems from the interviews that the student experience can be pretty varied. If you get lucky for your buddy program and you find somebody who's as interested in meeting people as you are, great. If you have some time and interest to learn Dutch on your own, prima. For everyone else though, the difficulty is in finding that opening into the social circles that allow you to get to know Dutch students. And more importantly, the university initiatives seem to be just out of view of international students in terms of getting to know about Dutch students. So, in the next video, we'll be talking to Roos de Vries from Student Union and Hans Olof from the Center for Educational Support to talk about how they strive towards cultivating a more social interaction between the students. Take care, and we'll see you in part 2.